his preschool, he was not socializing. He was 3. The minute he didn't come in with full sentences and speech, we knew something was wrong. My daughter's reception school teacher used to spend some time with him on the afternoons, just as a favor to us, and she spotted it and said, he seems to be in a world of his own. Maybe you ought to get his hearing tested. And if his hearing comes back normal, see a psychologist. And she was the first person who used the word autism to us. And it was autism. It was because at that stage he was actually advanced in activities that were not verbal. I would even say more advanced for his age than usual. Physically advanced, walked early. Once anything was to do with construction, knew left foot from right foot pretty early. So we actually thought he was right, and probably he is right, but didn't pick up the sort of on uniform development. That's slow speech, but advanced physical skills, and that's one of the signs actually. Then sometimes I think he's trapped because he knows so much that he can't express, and there's a sadness in that to me. It's almost like he's trapped in this mind that he can't, use to his fullest. Temper tantrums by far are what we grapple with most seriously now, as Rennie has aged, particularly as he's now taller and bigger than he was, and stronger. Temper tantrums are easy to manage in a 4-year-old and a 5-year-old. You can pick up the child and you can move him from place to place, but as a 17 and 18-year-old, with strength, much of which we don't know how he comes by, and agility, so he can outrun you. And he's fleet-footed, so he can run quite fast. And I would say between the temper tantrums and the running, it's quite scary. And he knows routes, so if he has a particular destination in mind, he can get there pretty fast on foot and put himself in danger on foot. He's quite goal-oriented. He will pursue the goal, and he likes chocolates and sweets, so he will spot all the service centers and he will target them and run to them if you give him a chance, from far distances, because he knows routes and he knows how to get to them. So that has been one of the frightening aspects of the autism process as well. Quite active. In fact, we thought the diagnosis would have come back as ADHD, because to us he was just a bright boy who was active. And so his activities, high levels of restlessness and activity, were a challenge. Crying spells were a challenge when he was, oh my goodness, he could cry for hours, So the crying spells were challenging. And then gradually, as he got over, the saddest, most challenging parts were the eventual exclusion, eventual continual exclusion from everyday play of children. So he became his settings in terms of education became more and more segregated, to the point where he was out of school as a teenager. So coming on to 13, he was out of full-time school, which was a big transition for him and for us. And we're still grappling with that transition. Hence, we're just delighted in terms of the Autism Association and the Center, because it provides us with a break. It gets him to interact with persons other than his family members. It gets him out. And one of the things autistics love is to be out. They love open spaces and wide open expanses of terrain. So it's just been a blessing in terms of that angle. Tugging down things off the shelf. I remember when he was very young, he just went into the supermarket, took down a whole set of things off the shelf. And I remember running behind him, but he runs so fast that for an onlooker, the child is in the view, but the mom is not in the view. And what I remember, and I was talking to this person saying, "Where's mom? Where's his mom? Where's his mother?" And I said, "Whoa!" So yeah, that's how. And also the public, because these children are different and they're active. And we tend in these parts of the world to be very, very strict in terms of what children should do and behavior. So if he has serious behavioral issues, then it's stigmatizing in the Caribbean, because we're not as open-minded and flexible when it comes to behavior. A child should really behave and behave well and do what we want it to do when we want it to do it. And these children don't. You may give an order and your order may be carried out an hour later and you're wondering, wait, what's that all about? And then, you think back. So it calls for a lot of flexibility, open-mindedness, patience from the public. I would say of all the things it calls for in terms of public-mindedness is patience. You really have to endure with these kids. You really have to give them the feeling that you're with them through it all. Well, it is both challenging and rewarding. The challenging aspects are because he's prone to temper tantrums, first of all. He's highly active also. So the combination of those two things make his problems mostly behavioral. And because we're dealing with this behavioral as it changes through the years so rapidly, that's the basic challenge that we have in terms of him. He's also intelligent, which poses challenges as well. He can anticipate your moods ahead of time if he knows your routine, and he can do what he needs to do to get his own way pretty easily once he understands those routines and gets them down pat. He also has a very good memory, so if you want to be hiding stuff from him that he shouldn't have, you will forget where you've put it and he will remember, which is a challenge to manage. He has a joy for living. That's one of the blessings. And I don't know if it pertains to his autism or to him, but he has a sort of spirit of perseverance. He doesn't give up. He's tenacious. He's resilient. And those are the aspects of Renee that we've found really, really to be a blessing to us through the years. When he gets into his moods deeply, so in the same way that he would get into an aggressive mood, he can also get into a highly joyful, excitable mood, and he feels it intensely, and that's where the joy and the blessing comes in terms of Renee. It's also been challenging managing him because he has a sibling. So if I was to really describe as a mother, one of my greatest challenges has been in terms of Renee is to kind of balance attention given to him with his sibling. That has been my greatest challenge. Another challenge has been maintaining my identity as a mother and a professional, because autism takes it out of you in terms of time, and you can really end up spending large amounts of time with these children and giving up full-time work actually to spend time with these children because it requires so much attention to learn. So to balance my personal activities and my professional activities has been challenging. Actually, I chose to go into psychology and to work with special needs children before his birth, which has always been one of the things in my life where I've always been so amazed by. But I've always had an affinity for working with the underdog, and particularly children who had either behavioral or learning challenges. And so Renee just fit into my lifestyle in terms of that. I didn't have to make any great decisions or great sacrifices in terms of that. It's just the managing of the time that has been challenging for me through the years. The thing is, because I had another career, you see, I decided pretty early, and that keeps me happy and optimistic too, that I was going to preserve my identity. I decided very early after his birth that I would not lose myself in autism, that he was a person with autism, and that the autism would not overwhelm me. And if I was to continue, if all members of my family are to continue in their work and in their professional endeavors, then we need help and we need support. And I decided that pretty early. And because of that, it was not a stretch to me. However, I do recognize in speaking to other parents like myself that it is a challenge. And the majority of parents say, like I do, after we go, it'll be my daughter. But we don't want him in an institution. We don't want it. So I can understand the tug in terms of, but respite care is not institutionalization. It is a break. It is not only a break for you, it's a break for your child. And I think that is what I've learned in terms of Renee and the respite sense. It's not just that he is getting a break, he's getting a break from us. So it's respite care for the parents, but it's also respite for the child. It's a break, it's another setting. So it's something that I would encourage parents to embrace actually. There is something about dealing with the children, and we talked about blessings. That's one of the blessings, that you change. So I don't think I would have been the sort of person I am in terms of my optimism if it were not happening for Renee. I am absolutely sure, and I've been doing research with families in Florida, and I'm finding out the same thing. And they're telling me that there's a sort of growth that comes that would not have come if they were not that way. And the thing about Renee is that he is a joyous person in the same that he feels stuff intensely. So you're with him in his intense anger and rage, but at the same time he can giggle and laugh for long expanses of time, and you know it's just a joy. It's been a joy. Tremendous. I've heard two sides of the coin. Some parents will say to me, it makes things better because you're forced to. You're forced to do a lot of stuff together that you wouldn't have to do. You take things for granted if you don't, that you cannot take for granted if you have a child with autism, but it is a strain. You can't work socially. These children are not visible. So it means that there's a lot of splitting in the family. That is to say, one parent is with Renee, the other is out with the other sibling. And so there's what you call a splitting, which is really serious. And it's exhausting. It's exhausting. It takes much more work than it would if you didn't have a child with that sort of challenge. So yes, you have to be mindful of that and that it's work. That's big because there are no group homes here and there are no sheltered workshops, and those are concepts that are used in developed countries, and it simply means that when they become adults, 30 and 40, there is a place for them to go on a daily basis. We haven't developed to that stage yet. However, the center gives me hope that we will get to that stage, that there will be persons who assist Renee when he's middle-aged to function in a group setting and to do work, because he can work, and to be supervised in work. In countries such as Canada, when I talk about segregation and sheltered workshops, some of my professional colleagues look at me in a strange sort of way because they don't segregate at all. They integrate, and so there's a concept that there is a job for everyone. It's not just a matter of finding the place for that person. So I'm optimistic that things will change, and his future will be bright. Autism is an expensive undertaking if you're raising a child with autism and into a teenager with autism and an adult with autism. And because of the tremendous expense, we do need assistance from institutions, public, private, a combination of the two. Your home is not the same. The homes that we live in are prone to destruction. Your vehicle may not be as you buy it. It depreciates pretty quickly. There's staffing, because these children take 24/7 care, 24/7 round the clock here. So I would like to make an appeal to persons who are altruistic minded to remember the autistics and remember the financial strain in terms of their parents, and to lend whatever assistance they can lend to us.